Hi, everyone, and welcome to WEDVIBES live session. Very excited to see you guys. And last time we've met, I was in Paris in the Chateau, and a week later back to California. And I'm very honored and proud that our guest and the speaker, Mar, the founder of Hair Makeup Team, is joining us for the second time. It means that not only everyone loved the session with Mar, but Mar also enjoyed. That's why she will share her wisdom today. And yeah, as a tradition, before we start, I will ask you to put in the chat your name, your profession, and where you're joining from, because we want to show that our mission in action, that we are uniting the professionals all over the world. So please don't hold yourself and put also some greetings to Mar, to us, and to fellow professionals. And while you will be doing that, I will once again introduce myself and Daria. My name is Alina. This is Daria. If you haven't met, we are co-owners of WEDVIBES. And our mission is to discover and showcase amazing talent all over the world. And besides that, to foster the community of like-minded professionals, where we have honest and transparent conversations about behind the scenes of the business to help you grow. And today, as a part of this movement, we will talk about really hot and sensitive and energy-consuming topic, crisis management. And when we discuss this topic with Daria and with Mar, we kind of touch that it's a lot of components, and this is such a high price usually you pay to be an expert in this. There is no education, no university, right? It all comes from the experience. And Mar is the best person to talk about that, because Mar, with your experience dealing with the upscale and so many egos, you totally have a lot of situation to share. Yeah, so we're not gonna talk about marketing, your sales funnel, Instagram, and PR. We will discuss way more difficult topic about human relationship, because weddings, and you know this better than us, it's not a B2B industry. It's an industry with a high stakes, with, as I said, egos and human connections. And everyone is very different. And what you perceive a good work ethics can be very different from how your clients perceive, right? So we will dive in, and I will encourage you, as always, to be active and to be present and to give your insights, comments, and share your experience in the chat, because normally this topic is not widely discussed on Instagram, right? We encourage you to share all your wins. So let's go wild and peel all the layers with this hard topic, because I believe everyone who at least worked at least half a year in this in wedding industry profession, you all have something to share. All right, Daria, maybe you can, as we usually do, give a great introduction to Mar, and then we will start the interview, because we put together a lot of questions for you, Mar.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Mar. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for finding time. I can see many fans of yours in the chat, but once again, Mar is a founder, owner of Team Hair and Makeup. Like, very easy to remember, the best name out there. It's all in the name. It's all in the name, guys. Yeah, and Mar been in the industry for 20 years, and of course, we know that she has a huge team to manage. She's been working with celebrities. She's a legend. She works with legends. She had celebrities as clients. She worked on the red carpets everywhere. And of course, you manage like to have a team right now, and you work with upscale luxury clients all the time. So you know that, as Alina mentioned, you had a great experience with difficult clients, of course. And who else would we ask to navigate and to have this conversation with us about the crisis manager other than you? So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're gonna do basically it's gonna be the conversation, guys. Me and Alina, we've prepared some questions of our own, but yes, if you want to, you can also jump in with your maybe situations you have.
We will give you some time to shine. All right, Mar, let's start with the first question. When we talk about difficult clients, and let's just break it down. What you consider from your experience, how you understand that the client is difficult? Because let's say you still she signed the contract, made the deposit, or I don't know, process the payment. What happens next? How you understand that what are the signs that the client is challenging, and yeah, how you get prepared for the future communication.
Well, thank you guys for having me again. You know, I absolutely love you guys, and I was so glad that I got to meet you in person a couple of months ago. Really happy to be here. You know, some of the things that I talk about and I go over, I wish that somebody had shared that with me when I started. It probably would have saved me a lot of time, money, energy, you know, emotion. When you say, like, how do I spot a difficult client? It's about your perspective. You know, I don't see a client ever as difficult. I really don't. Everyone just has different needs and different wants and different dreams. The key, I think, to figuring out the type of client you have is to take the time to get to know them. Take the time to try to understand where they're coming from. Just because someone comes off maybe, you know, demanding or you know, an obvious, you know, type A personality or what have you. I always tell my brides, you can be as particular as you want because you're never going to be as particular as I am. I am so OCD about things. I won't leave my house unless my velvet pillows are on my velvet couch a certain way. So when I get a client that's, you know, maybe wants a little more or needs a little more attention, I make note of that. I make note and go, okay, this is someone that's going to need to be reminded about things. This is someone that I need to hold her hand a little bit through things. This is someone that wants to know every single detail. And so I always try to under promise and over deliver. But it comes down to your perspective. Just because you have somebody who maybe isn't your cup of tea as far as the best personalities that maybe you jive with or get along with, doesn't mean that they're going to be a challenge or a nightmare client. And if you go into it thinking that, that's going to be your experience. So you have to find the positive and you have to find the silver lining in every personality you work with. It's the same thing with managing such a large team. I know the strengths and weaknesses of each staff member, and they're all very different from each other. That's the same thing with my clients. They're all very different. Some women are going through law school and planning a wedding and buying a house. Others are, you know, jetting off to a honeymoon and they don't have to work. So everyone comes from a different background, but if you take the time to understand people and you meet them where they're at, it's no longer going to be a challenging client. It's going to be a client that you understand more so that you can hit those marks with them and understand what they need from you. That's the bottom line. And I will say that there's a few planners, I won't drop any names, but there's a few planners that attract what people would think to be a high maintenance bride. And I'm going, high maintenance, like I'm really high maintenance. Like to be high maintenance in my eyes, like you got to be super wild. And it just doesn't really happen. Now, I wasn't always a good seer in those things. I mean, I would say 25 years ago when I started, any Tom, Dick, or Harry that came through the door, I was like, absolutely, let's book you. Now I have a different take on that. Now I know who my client is. I know the clients I want to work with. I know the style that I'm looking for to match with them. I know the locations. So it's just different now. So now I would say that out of a couple hundred weddings we do a year, I maybe get one or two challenging clients, right? But they're not difficult. They just need something different than maybe the majority of our other brides need. And that's okay. That's okay with me. But again, it's about your perspective. It's about how you choose to look at things. And I choose to look at things from the most positive light. I take the high road. There's always less traffic. And I remain professional no matter what. No matter what.
All right, let's peel this onion because it sounds incredible and I like that starting point. It's about perception, how we set ourselves, right? If people are annoying to us, yeah, it's hard. But if you try to understand, dive into their story and deliver what they expect, that's great. However, let's say you did your homework, you stepped into their client's shoes, you understand where it comes from, and still your understanding of what kind of service they bought from you and the size the service they expect from you can be different, right? So how, like when it comes to extra request or extra attention, I mean, everyone works in different professions. You do makeup, right? I don't know, asking for trial, texting you at midnight, whatever you can come to your mind. And it's still like all about boundaries, how you handle that.
Boundaries are really important to have in your business. One of the boundaries that I maintain and I've kept for a long time is that once Friday afternoon hits, or even a Thursday, it depends. Once my wedding schedule starts, my focus is on those clients. And it's happened before, and this happened actually recently where I was on a job in Canada and it was a different time zone. We're on New York time there. And I had a bride who was texting me at like 3 o'clock in the morning, asking about skincare or when she should get her spray tan. What I do is I always answer, but I let them know, you need to send me an email and let me know what your questions are. And then when I'm back in my office and I let them know when, I'll get to your message. Or if they don't really get that message and they keep texting, I'm like, I'm with the bride. And I don't think you would appreciate me stopping to use my phone when I'm in the middle of your bridal beauty. So I have to respect this bride's time. So if I have to say something, I will. It doesn't really go there too often. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have brides and I'm like, what the hell? Of course. But there's a way that you can set a boundary and you can get your message across. I'm really big on problem solving. So I'm not going to go to my office and start complaining about a bride. I might go to them and go, this is a situation. What are your perspectives? Because I want to hear how other people see things. It's not going to determine how I handle it, but it's going to maybe give me new information. I run it by my project manager, Mary, all the time. I'm like, this is what she wants. This is what I want to do. What are your thoughts? Because she's way sweeter than I am. And she's way more patient than I am. And sometimes she'll give the benefit of the doubt and be like, well, maybe she meant this, or maybe this is what she's thinking. And I'm like, I didn't think about that. So I'll just ask the bride.
Different perspective.
Yeah, perspective, right? Because we're never going to know it all. We're never going to know it all. We're going to make mistakes. I mean, I tell you guys all the time, I've made probably every expensive, ridiculous mistake there is to make. And I have fallen on my face 800 times, but I get up 801 times. And that's the difference between me and the next guy, is that I've been through it, right? But this long in business, you're going to go through it. But I have to say, like, unless somebody is really disrespectful or they're really unkind to my team, I have fired brides before. I just fired one recently that I just won't do manipulation. I won't do mean girling. I won't do disrespect. And it's a fine line, right? In my contract, I even have something that states, and I'm not going to say it word for word, but that basically says, like, if you're not kind and cool with us, we have the right to refuse service to anybody. And I've probably fired maybe 4 brides in 25 years. So there's really not a lot, because you do everything you can to help and to make them happy, right? But there's going to be people that no matter what you do, you just can't make them happy. And that at that point, it's not about what you're presenting or trying to get through. It's a place where they've got their insecurities, you've got your policies, and they clash. And you just kind of have to know when to fold them, when to go, we're just not a great fit. And I wish you luck. And what I'll do sometimes, and what I've done with the small amount that I have fired, I let them know, I think this person or this company would be a better fit. And then I call that person and I go, look, this is what she needs. This is what she's looking for. This is her personality, but give her a chance. You guys might be able to work with her. But I'm not going to send a bride anywhere who I feel is going to be verbally abusive to another vendor. That I won't do. And before I fire them, I usually call the wedding planner and go, I want you to understand our decision here. This was a hard decision. This is why we decided to do this. And honestly, it works out for the best. And what's happened every time I've done that, that date gets booked within a couple of weeks.
Yeah. With that, so I actually
Go ahead.
want to make a note and then we can continue. I like this part about the agreement. I don't know like how many of you guys who joined today have this in the agreement, but I know that a lot of professionals start putting that, paragraph about the behavior, like Uber. We have like the driver has a rating and we as passengers also have a rating.
Absolutely.
So very similar because that's a kind of some trend of being disrespectful from the client perspective, especially speaking of like expensive weddings. When people spend a lot of money, they believe that spending money, they buy your patient and disrespect and whatever. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I wanted to highlight this point that maybe if you haven't done it yet, ChatGPT will help you. You don't maybe even need to hire a lawyer because it costs a lot of money, but you can look into that.
Talk to a lawyer, okay?
Yeah,
ChatGPT is
hire a
helpful.
lawyer.
Talk to a lawyer because it's different in different states. You know, you got to be very aware of what happens, you know, with that contract and what you can enforce and what you can't enforce. And that's the difference. So definitely do your due diligence. But I implore anyone to, if you're in a business where you're able to make your living from your business and you're that consistently busy, you should have a lawyer on retainer. And it's not to like all of a sudden, you know, go to battle with some client. That's not what it's for. It's for you to make sure that you're within your rights of what your contract states. Our contract changes probably once every couple of years. We fine tune it. We fine tune it. I've spent thousands of dollars with lawyers to making sure that, you know, it's written the way it's supposed to be written. But what I do with our contracts is I'll get a version from my lawyer that has all this legal jargon in it, right? And I'm going, people aren't going to know what that means right off the bat. So I'll simplify it to have the same definition, but a different presentation. Because I also don't want to seem too, you know, corporate-y in that way. I still want to seem personable and I want things written very, very clearly. But what I'll also do is I'll reiterate certain policies, especially when I find that maybe the client is starting to encroach upon that policy. I'll reiterate what that means. Or if they're, I'll give you a good example. Like I just had this happen like 20 minutes ago where I told the bride, this is your deadline for when you can add services, because we're trying to finalize our schedules and we do multiple weddings every week. So she just emailed me and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Is it too late to add people? Usually I'd be like, no, we're good. Like, come on. But it's a really crazy weekend and that's happening more often these days. So I told her, well, how many people are we talking? Are we talking 10? Are we talking 3? Because I will always say yes to my clients, but it's going to come with a price tag. And so for this particular wedding weekend, I might have to bring down 3 of my artists from San Francisco. Well, she's got to cover the travel for that. So if it's worth it to her to do that, then I'll do it. And then when it comes to the travel costs, a super side note, we don't, you know, up the price. It costs what it costs. But yeah, I think that overall, you know, it's perspective when it comes to these moments. It's really figuring out who your client is and who you want your clients to be. But I was going to say, you know, earlier, I have a couple of wedding planners and they do attract a very like passionate bride. And we joke about it. So we're like, oh, that's so-and-so's bride. Okay, get ready. And it always lands. So depending on who the planner producer is, they attract a certain client. Like I have more planners than I can count that attract lovely humans, that they just want to be guided, they just want to be taken care of, and they just want to be heard. But for those couple that attract a different type of client, I love getting on Zoom calls with people and getting to know who they are before they book. And I've had it, this just happened to me recently for a destination wedding. This bride was very hyped on booking us, didn't care our rates were, wanted us for her out of state wedding. And it just seemed really intense for me. And I thought, I want to get to know her. Because if I'm going to get in an airplane and travel 10 hours for you, I want to be excited to work with you and be there. If you're someone that I'm not going to feel comfortable around or I'm not going to jive with, you know, I have lots of facets to my personality. I can get along with anyone, but I want to enjoy working with that person and I want to go above and beyond for them. I'm not going to do that if it's not someone that I feel is a good match. And so I'll get on a Zoom call, ask a few questions, and I've noticed that sometimes brides are very guarded because they're talking to a million people and they don't want to get sales pitched. But I let them know this isn't to pitch you. I want to get to know you and see if we're a good match. I had a bride a few weeks ago. Oh my gosh, so funny. Her sister emailed for her and said, well, do you have any references? Do you have a bride we can talk to who you worked with? And I was like, that's a little odd. That's a little odd. And I said, you know, I would not feel comfortable disclosing my clients like that. If you want to know who we are, Google us. Look at the reviews. Look at, you know, ask your vendors. Look at our Instagram if you want to know who we are. But excuse me, her sister then became very gung-ho to book us. And I'm talking to the sister and I'm going, she seems nice and normal and nice, you know, fine or whatever. But I want to talk to the bride. I get on the Zoom call with the bride and she's so stoic that she almost seems like she's angry. And so at one point I stopped our chat and I kind of sat back and I go, are you okay? are you okay with, do you want
Are you
a
okay?
phone call with me? Like, you know, we can cut it short now if you want. And then all of a sudden she gets tears in her eyes and she goes, I'm so sorry, but I've just had 3 really bad trials. And I go, oh, that's what's going on. She goes, yeah, so sorry if I'm guarded. I'm like, yeah, let's bring down those walls. Let's talk that through. And after we talked it through and I understood what had happened at these other trials, it wasn't that these other people weren't good at what they did. It was that she had a hard time conveying what it was she wanted. The second and third trial, the first trial, she didn't know and didn't give any direction or a starting point. So I told her, I go, you have to own part of that. Part of that was on you, but I think there could have been more effort to getting and unpacking what it is you want. And she's like, I just need someone that's really experienced and knows how to do that. And I go, well, let's unpack it. We unpacked it. She ended up booking her 4-day wedding with me out of state next year. And it's going to be a beautiful event.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the point about the perspective that we sometimes forget that our couples, say, like in the middle of the like preparing for the wedding, they have hundreds of Zoom calls, and the crisis management starts actually as a sales pitch. Because sometimes, especially if we want to expand our business, maybe we want to start working overseas, like in Italy and France, maybe we want to start booking like the clients have a higher budget. And this is the moment then we're already nervous, we're overwhelmed, and we want to start like over promising.
Yeah.
Maybe here I love the point that you're like, but at this point in your career, you can kind of like lay back and say like, okay, Google us. Like if you want to know about us, just Google.
Well, I'm not going to give you like, to me,
this confidence.
like that felt really like, oh, okay, so you don't see that we're really experienced. And I'm thinking it's not my brand messaging. Like she just hadn't looked at anything. And then she had said, oh, I didn't even look at your site yet. My sister just saw you on Instagram. I'm like, well, no, like dig around, like you do your research. If you're doing this for your sister, then do some research, like figure out who you're talking to. And it's not like, oh, don't you know who I am? You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, know who you are approaching.
You know who you're talking
I
to.
mean,
Yeah,
come on.
it's still it's a great point about being confident like about your strengths, because we know that lots of creatives, they have imposter syndrome, no matter how talented they are. So it all starts with your confidence. This is how like you stop
Yeah.
over.
I mean,
Just
you
to
know,
Google
guys,
it.
I always say this, none of us are out here in the wedding industry trying to solve the world's problems, okay? We're here trying to create beautiful events. We all give up our weekends to do so. When everyone else in our lives has the weekend off, we're out there, you know, working, and we're working hard. And when you have your own business, every dollar you make or don't make is in your hands. It's kind of like this. I'll kind of explain it like this. When you're a fan of a sports team, right? And your team won, it's we won. If your team loses, it's they lost. Like, honestly, I mean, of course, there's really well fans out there that are like, we lost, you know, but that's kind of the mentality. So at the end of the day, be very gracious and be kind and be cool. It takes so much less effort just to be cool with people and just to be flexible and try to work with people. I love when a planner calls me the day before a wedding and goes, oh my God, she forgot to add 3 people. And now they're doing a first look and we got to change the timing. I love those moments because I'm like, this is our time to shine. This is our time to show how flexible and how quickly we can make things happen. I had a wedding in Napa a few years ago, and the bride was very type A, having a very high-end wedding with a fabulous planner, fabulous photographer. And the morning of the wedding, it was like her personality changed. She was literally gripping my makeup chair, so tense. And when I first was walking in, the planner took me aside and said, I don't know what's going on with her. She's really on one. She's being really micromanagey, and we're just trying to navigate around it. And I thought, why don't you just ask her what's wrong? Like, why don't you just face it? The deal is, well, we don't want to upset her. We don't want to add to it. And I'm like, great. So now I'm going into this. I go into it. She was kind with me. She's always nice to me, but she was gripping my makeup chair. And I just leaned in and I said, what is going on with you? This is your wedding day. Do you not see everything going on around you? This is going to be a fabulous day. What is going on? And she had had some issues with the groom's family about a prenup. And I said, okay, I can see how that could be really tense. I go, but so what? So what? Show me a prenup that doesn't have holes in it. Don't worry about it. Like you'll figure it out if it ever comes to that point. Just enjoy the moment. So I took her outside. This was a very like, I would say very fancy bride, right? I took her outside, told her to kick off her fancy shoes, stood her in the dirt, and made her do box breathing. Then I go, look, I have 2 things in my kit. Actually 3. I have kava tea, which is basically like taking a Xanny that's across the table, right? I have CBD with no THC, because I'm not about that. And I have tequila. And I said, pick your
So
poison.
choose,
You
choose
Yeah.
your poison.
Yeah, I got 3 options. Tequila, you want some tea, or you
CBD.
want CBD.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, give me a CBD. Gave her one 20 minutes later. The one 20 minutes later. 3 CBDs down, right? I leave to go to the
tequila.
restroom. It was so crazy. I leave to go to the restroom. The planner comes up to me and goes, I don't know what you did, but she's a completely different person. Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. Like, let's figure this out. I don't want any bride sitting in my chair, upset about something that may or may not matter or may be able to get worked out later. It's perspective. It's how you choose to look at things. And that's it. Bottom line.
and have CBD instead of throw away your ibuprofen. That's
Yeah, I gave her some options. That's what she chose.
so I want again, because I listened carefully and I want to highlight one thing that I really loved, because I usually practice the same. We love the things that we do. Never say no, but every yes comes with a price tag. I think that is one of the biggest insights that was in my career. I also paid my price for this insight, but yeah, so the way we speak, it also actually contributes the entire outcome. So if someone asks, like the client asks for something extraordinary, usually like the normal reaction say, no, we cannot do it. Or like, I don't know, any way you can say no, just stop, pause and say yes. Of course, we will find the way around that. And then it usually comes with some price. Usually, not always, but yeah, never say no. That is the rule. Never.
Well, you have to be reasonable, right? If we can do what you're asking to do with ease, great. But if we have to, if I feel like it's gonna stress out my team or it's going to maybe go south in any way, I let them know that. And so if you're bringing something to the table that you want, I'm going to ask you to meet me halfway. So if you need to add a bunch of extra services, you got to change your time. Well, guess what? Now I got to bring in an artist literally within hours to be there. Now I have to extend that time, or now we got to start earlier. I don't want to do those things. I don't want you to be in hair and makeup for 5 or 6 hours. I don't want my stylist to be stressing, trying to get to LAX, trying to get to Santa Barbara, trying to get wherever, because you didn't do your due diligence and check with everyone about service counts. So I will let them know that. I will do the best I can, but it's going to come with the fee. And I tell brides this often where, when a bride will say like, oh, I have to pay for that, or I have to, oh, that I have to do that. That's extra. And I think, do you go to work and go, oh, I'll do that for 2 or 3 hours for free? No. Well, then why would you expect us to? This isn't a hobby, and I'm not running a sorority house. I'm running a business, and a business that keeps growing. So if people ask me what I do for a living, I say I'm a business owner first, because that's what I am. And I don't play when it comes to my business. My priority is my clients. My priority is that all my staff is happy, and my priority is that I'm happy. So I will do everything I can for you, but I'm not going to give so much where I lose my own balance. And that's it. That's bottom line for me.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's how you
honest.
found.
Because no one like actually no bride want to have a desperate artist who like barely live. But I mean, that's fine. You just need to say it out loud and maybe practice. This is what we need.
And when you have to say no, deliver it with grace, deliver it with class, and be kind in your delivery. I think that's something. It took me a long time to realize how intense my personality was, and to realize that, people have been telling me my whole life, you're so intimidating, you're so intimidating. And I'm going, what? I don't even know how to like be that way.
It's just me.
It's just my personality. I'm really intense personality. I'm, very opinionated about things. I say how it is, or sometimes I'm just really stoic and I just observe. So people have said to me, you're very intimidating, and I didn't know what to say. And I thought, I'm going to ask my therapist about that. So I did. Because therapy, if you're in the wedding industry, you better have a therapist, just saying. But I asked my therapist about it, and she goes, it's not that you're intimidating, it's that they want to be that way and they don't know how. And so instead they flip it and tell you you're intimidating. And I go, oh, that's weird.
Very good therapist.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, really? That's so weird. Okay. I think there's a lot of fear. I think there's a lot of fear in people across the board. And there's a lot of insecurity. And I mean, I'm insecure about stuff, of course, but fear is something that I don't give any time to. I don't believe in being afraid. You just have to try. You have to do and try and do your best, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk to you about the wedding day, because we all know, like all the professionals, that it doesn't matter how carefully you planned anything, because it's like planner photographer, you can have a timeline, the shot list, like all everything, but everything, like something will always go wrong. And I remember Jose actually, like on one of his interviews, I remember the phrase he said, like, your clients are paying for your confidence, that no matter what, you will hold your face and you will say, yeah,
We're all swans.
Yeah,
we're all like,
and they're
graceful.
like, yeah, and they're like, everything goes by the plan. Yes. And then you will figure out that later. But yes, we know that clients could be difficult. They could like maybe stress, maybe even freak out, like if it's like the first major.
Yeah.
How you handle, like maybe you have also some examples that you can tell us, like how to deal with the situation right here. Not that you can come back to your laptop and send the email, but right in the moment.
There's a big difference between meeting someone where they're at and matching their energy. If you've got a bride, and here's the thing, because we're the first vendor they see, I see that Tanya from Page Beauty, who I adore them, I love them, is on. So hi, Tanya. There's so much I want to say about this. So if you match their energy and they're wound up, or they're really emotional, or they don't feel well, or they just got word that something happened, first of all, the best wedding planners that we work with, the bride will never know if something is going down behind the scenes. They just will present options if whatever they're asking for or whatever they planned on can't happen. They'll give them options. They don't just bring the problem. They bring the solutions and then share the challenge. And that's huge. That's huge. You can always have an experienced planner or producer because they bring you solutions, right? But the worst thing you could do is feed the fire. Whether for us in beauty, we see things like dynamics between families that can go south. We see, I would say, a bridesmaid who maybe wants to be the bride, and that can be a challenge. I see where she's getting messages from people that are, down at the front lines of things, working on stuff, and hearing about, oh no, the rental company, forgot a whole table and chairs, or the flowers showed up and they're peach instead of orange. So we'll hear that stuff. We are their one moment in real time to calm them down. That's when you are a listener, and that's when you are a friend and someone who is comforting and caring. I had a client not too long ago. It was where mom was there, and mom was like, she was stunning, right? Beautiful woman. Mom and dad had just recently divorced. Dad had a new girlfriend before you knew it, kind of a younger woman who was actually very kind and very sweet. But this is a crazy story. I have to be careful how I say it because I don't want anyone to know what I'm talking about. But basically, the new girlfriend had a very similar dress to the mother of the bride.
Okay.
And the mom realized it that morning and started to, what I would call, emotional dump on the bride. And the bride was still kind of, the jury was still out about the new woman, of course, like anybody, right? And mom was just making it all about her, oh, I want my hair makeup to look extra now. And the girlfriend was coming in a couple hours to get done. So I was trying to get mom done so they don't run into each other. But the bride was so emotional about it because she was so nervous and so worried about them. And I took her aside for a minute. I got her out of the room because the mom was just very hyped up and feeling very insecure. And, I don't blame her, but that's not the time. You don't dump on a bride on the wedding day. Took the bride out of the room and I said, what's this really about? Because there's no reason to make their problem your problem. And she said, well, my dad just met this woman and I haven't even met her more than one time and she's at my wedding. I said, you don't want her to be here? And she goes, not really. I go, you don't want her to get her hair and makeup done in the room? And she's like, not really. So I called the planner and I said, hey, we're going to send so-and-so stylist to her room. We're going to take care of her there. Called my stylist and I said, just tell her that the room's really small and we're going to be doing some people in their rooms. When she went and did her. So the bride didn't even have to see her until it was the wedding time. And the mom appreciated that too. And then I took the mom aside. The mom was from New York, right? Women from New York, you can be direct and straight to the point and they're not going to think that you're, a psycho. So I took her aside and I said, this stops now. And she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, this energy you have stops now. I go, or we can go into another room and take care of you. No, I want to get ready with, oh my God, what said her name? I want to get ready with my daughter, blah, blah. I said, that's fine, but I need you to shelf this. You're going to look super hot. He's going to be looking at you, regretting all the things, but I need you to buckle it up because this isn't about you. She started crying and goes, thank you so much for reminding me about this. I needed that perspective. And the rest of the day went on fine. They were on separate sides of the room the whole time. I was on touch-ups and I'm just like grabbing my popcorn, like, ooh, girl, ooh, that's happening. Ooh, over there. I just, it was fine.
Yeah.
But that's our job. That's our job, is to keep the room calm and to keep things from going wild and going sideways and to keep things on time, no matter what we're faced with. Those are real-time moments. I had a bride in Jackson Hole a couple of years ago with this gorgeous $4,000 Oscar de la Renta veil. She's getting married in this log cabin mansion thing. She walks by this log sticking out from the wall and it rips her veil. Huge hole. She started hyperventilating. And at first I was like, what's going on? And she couldn't talk. She was like, I ripped that veil out of her head. I threw it on the ground. I grabbed some scissors and I cut the hole out and made it a teardrop veil like that. And it looked fine. So if you don't know what to do in situations, calming nerves, fixing a veil, fixing a strap on a dress. I've sewn mother of the brides and grooms into their dresses when their zipper broke. I once had a mom who had put on a little weight and didn't try her dress on for 6 months and the dress back was open this much. I'm like, what are you wearing for a shawl? Grab the shawl. I tacked it onto the back of the dress, tacked it to the bottom. Couldn't tell, pictures looked great. Her arms were covered and her dress looked fine. So you have to know what to do in real-time situations. Not all hair and makeup artists are going to know to do those things, but you get someone in the business that's been around for 10, 15 years, they're going to know how to do that kind of stuff. And they're not going to alarm the planner when the planner's got 8,000 things to do and so much responsibility. So it really does matter who you choose to be in that room with you, because we are your referee, we're your best friend. Sometimes we're your mama in some ways. Sometimes we're the referee. I mean, there's just, yeah, I could go on and on and on. Another reason why I'm definitely writing a book at some point.
And we're gonna buy it for sure. Yeah, it feels like, so every wedding professional, it's not only about the wedding planners, who for sure are the Jacks and Janes of all trades.
Absolutely.
It all comes to, like, even the photographer, the makeup artist, the floral designers. We have to have the basic psychological training, I would say, because all of those freaking outs, it's not about the force majeure. It's about, like you said, about mom, how she wanted to be, she wanted to look hot,
right,
in front of the ex-husband.
We see that kind of stuff all the time. I get it. I totally get it. But don't make that the bride's problem. Don't make that her issue. The bride should be on freaking unicorns and rainbows the morning of her wedding, no matter what dynamics are going on.
My question, Mar, here, because I believe from what I hear, you have a lot of wisdom and confidence and everything. So you kind of allow yourself to build this kind of relationship. But my question is, in many cases, the wedding professional is much younger and less experienced. And because, like, for you, it's natural. And I always say that if it's natural to you, yeah, you can come over to the mom and have this kind of conversation. It will be respectful. It will be, like, logical to me. But if the young girl who is doing makeup or a photographer not as experienced, is it, in your opinion, appropriate to have this kind of, because you're also like hitting some boundaries, you know? And because
Well,
you doing that, it's really, to me, it's a great asset and you put on the table. But I believe not every professional feel confident of like building this kind of relationship just because they're younger, they're not in this situation, or they're just different people, you know? So if you understand my question, like, is there any techniques that can be applicable for a wider range of personalities and the ages and professions?
one thing that I teach my staff to do, because I have girls on my staff, I mean, I will say this, every person that works under the team brand is way nicer than I am. They're so kind and gentle, and I call them sweet baby angels. I'm very assertive. I'm intense personality, right? And I'm cool, but I'm not sweet. I'm kind, but I'm not like,
Yeah.
you guys
But
know.
this is your energy. Like
This is
you
my
can
energy.
allow yourself to do something that not everyone can. I mean,
Right, absolutely.
it won't be
Yeah.
I
appropriate.
teach
You
my
can take the
staff,
lead of the
and I
room, yeah.
teach my girls is that touch can go a long way. And just a moment to put your hand on a bride's shoulder and go, are you good? How are you feeling? Not how are you doing? Are you nervous? Don't ever ask a bride, are you nervous? Like, what are you doing?
Yes,
Why,
she is.
why are you putting that out in the universe? Like, shut your mouth. Don't say that. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Have you eaten anything? So I train my staff to do that. If we have a situation where the bride is gripping the chair and she's so intense and there's other things going on around her that are stressing her out, remove her physically from that space. Remove her, take her to the bathroom. I know bathrooms have crap lighting, but that's why you have makeup lights. Take her to a separate part of the room. Ask her if she wants to be separated. Ask her if the music is too loud. Ask her if all the stimulation around her is adding to her stress. Ask her these questions. Put your hand on her shoulder and tell her it's going to be okay, because it is. Everything's going to work out fine. A hand on the shoulder works. Also, I think what works is just to give somebody a freaking hug, just to bring them in. This happened in Canada where my bride was getting really overstimulated. There was a lot going on. There was 8 different looks in 2 days. Mary, I need quiet, babe. 8 different looks in 2 days, and she was exhausted. She was exhausted, and there's a point where it was just so much stimulation, and I just looked at her and I go, clear the room. We're clearing the room. We're getting everyone out of the room, including myself, and giving her a minute to breathe. So I train my staff to take initiative and do those things. If you start to see that you're losing control of the situation, where stress and emotions and things, sorry, I get distracted so easy. Are you good? Okay. Oh, she had a cough. She walked out of the room. Mary, my project manager, is here. We're at a hotel. It's the whole thing. Anyways, but yeah, I train them to look for the signs of stress, of look for the signs of being overwhelmed, being overstimulated, and reassuring them and letting them know it's a safe space. So if you're in a, brand new business and it's your first or second year in weddings, you might want to use some of those tips for sure. Or what might also be a good idea is see who the bride is talking to a lot. There's always a sister or maid of honor. And if you see things starting to get a little bit funky and the energy start to shift, go to that person and say, hey, can you check on the bride? Can you take her aside or maybe grab her some tea? That way it's coming from someone that she knows well. Because it depends what kind of business you are. We're a bridal concierge where we have a lot of communication, and we become very friendly with these brides, and I keep in touch with a lot of them. So if you don't have that kind of relationship or you're not interested in doing that kind of thing with your brides, that's okay. But at least know who her safe space is in the room. That's, and that just comes from observation. Who is she relying on? Who is she asking, to do things? That's your point person if you don't feel comfortable doing that.
I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I don't know how about Daria, but I have one more question before we will move to Q&A.
Sure.
So I will ask one, and I believe it's the hardest one, about unhappy clients.
Okay.
No, you've done what you've done. You didn't fire them. So you delivered. And the wedding day passed, and then they come back, I don't know when, and they're unhappy.
Unhappy. I'm trying to think the last time. So you're talking after the wedding?
Maybe after, maybe during the wedding, but they're unhappy.
They're unhappy. I'm trying to think. Hold on.
Fire them, avoid unhappiness.
Or maybe if it's something you would recommend to others, if it's like, we know for sure, like from some photographers' stories, that they deliver the images, for example, like it's all done. The wedding is past gone. It's like 6 months after the wedding, they delivered the images, and they done the best job,
No,
right? But
it's
the guy's
I mean, it's
"No,
common.
I don't
It
like it. I'm
happens.
unhappy."
It
Yeah.
happens. That the
Yeah.
Does
couple is
happen.
unhappy.
I will
What
say that
what would be the
before,
recommendation? Yeah.
no, of course, before we were planner referred or before social media was a thing, way back in the day, I remember having like what I would call stupid stuff, just stupid stuff that could be avoided, right? You got to turn these challenging moments, these lessons into blessings. You have to learn from every situation that you're in. But if I'm dealing with someone who just says, I'm not happy, I don't know, my hair didn't look right, or my this didn't look right. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, and I don't want to sound, like it doesn't ever happen. I mean, I would say that, God, it's hard. It's such a loaded question because I'm going, we don't really experience that too much, but these days, but I can tell you from years ago. I'll tell you a quick little story from years ago. It was about 15 years ago when we did this fabulous wedding at a fabulous location. And you'll hear me say that a lot because I love all my weddings, but did this bride. And at the wedding, there was obviously a beauty schedule. And the beauty schedule was very, very detailed. The lead stylist had just had a baby a month before. And we knew what the situation was, and this wasn't her first child. So she knew that I'll be back in 3 weeks, which I thought was crazy, but women are amazing. So she was. And on the beauty schedule, I had 2 gaps of time for her to go breastfeed because her husband was going to bring the newborn to the venue. She was going to step out and breastfeed and come back. And again, very detailed schedule. I think there was like 7 artists there. It was a big wedding. And the grandmother had a schedule of being there at 12 o'clock. She got there at 11:15, 45 minutes early, and expected to be serviced. Well, my team's on schedule. They're not going to stop what they're doing to do someone else when they have an appointment. So they continued. Grandma didn't want to stick around. She was over it. She wanted to go hang out in her room. So she did. And we finished the rest of the services. I'm, of course, getting word that we're down 1 hair. It looked like it was grandma. She's not coming back. We've asked for her to come back. She doesn't want to come back. No problem. In our contract, it states if anything cancels on the day of, then you, what do you call it? You still have to pay for it because I still have a certain number of stylists. They have assignments. If it doesn't happen, So then I knew that this bride was going on her honeymoon the very next morning and out of the country. And so not too long after she was on her honeymoon, I get this really wild email, like a diatribe email. And attached to that email was a timeline of where each stylist was during that 4-hour time frame. And she claimed that her lead stylist was stepping out for a smoke break. And I thought, wow. 2 things. 1, who smokes anymore, even back then? 2, at a venue. And 3, this girl wouldn't even touch a cigarette ever. And so right away, I thought, she really has it twisted up, right? But if I would have met her at her energy and fought her, that would have been a problem. Instead, I wanted her to know, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. And I want to explain a little bit to you how we saw the situation and what we understand to be true. We went back and forth on email a couple of times. And at the end of it, I was like, she's sure fighting really hard for this, like really wanting to prove that my artist was out smoking. And I thought, what's the bottom line here? So after about 2 or 3 emails back and forth, I finally just asked her, what do you want? What do you want? You're emailing me from your honeymoon. What do you want? And she said, I want the money back for my grandmother's hair, when we weren't even really talking about the grandmother's hair. And I said, yeah, of course. I don't have a problem doing that. I want you to remember us and have a good taste in your mouth about your experience. But I want to make sure you understand that this woman had a baby. And so I attached a photo of the newborn. I said, this is her baby. You can tell it's only a month or 2 old. She accepted. She apologized. 6 months later, her wedding gets a 3-page spread in Martha Stewart Weddings when that was still a thing. She refers us out to a couple of her friends, and it's all good in the hood. But had I matched her energy and got defensive or got angry or got emotional or operated from my ego, that girl, she just graduated from law school. She was ready to go down and around and around and around. And I thought, no, I want to know the bottom line. And so I just asked her. So, when it comes to all this crisis management situations, and we've all had that moment in our business where something happens and we're like, holy crap, like, what are we going to do? Like, this is awful. We've all had those moments. But if you can calm your nervous system down a little bit and you can think practically and take your ego and your emotions out of it, you're going to have a better response instead of a reaction. Crisis is all about perspective and about who you are and who you want to be as a person. That's it. It's that simple. And it will pass. You will get past it. But you have to show gratitude when someone brings you a challenge or a problem, because they're giving you a chance to be different. They're not just giving up on you and then, saying horrible things online or to other people about you. They're giving you a chance to be different. Take that opportunity, make it better, make it stronger. So when you ask me about like what challenging moments and this and that, first of all, I don't really think there's anything that could be super crisis for me when it comes to clients. There's other things in my business that have posed as a crisis for sure. I just got through a situation recently where I was like, I'm going to have a freaking heart attack. I need to calm down. But when it comes to my clients, we do the unpacking that needs to be done. We do our due diligence. We ask the questions. We over communicate. We over deliver. And I have to say, like, I think that's why we've been able to stay, somewhat relevant over the last 2 decades, is because we know how to own our stuff. We know how to navigate through difficult moments, and we know to check your emotions and your ego at the door. There's no room for that in your business. Simple as that. There's just no room for it.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
I have nothing to add. I actually even made a note about like this gives you a chance to be different, make it better, make it stronger.
Yeah.
That should be the
You bet.
tagline for the session.
Well, and there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, right? And this is just my little opinion. Confidence to me is always trying to be the best, right? Just really trying to be the best version of what you do. Competing with the person you were last season. Arrogance is thinking you already are. And that's a mistake that I see happen all the time. Just because you're really popular this season, or just because you've been, making money the last 10 years. If you are someone that's like, I'm best, if you do that, you're going to stop growing and learning. And yeah, you're going to be the best like 10 years ago, but you're not going to be relevant now. So you have to always try to be better, try to grow, listen to the feedback. I know it's difficult to hear sometimes. I'll tell you this, and if I'm going to share this, I'm kind of looking at Mary. She's probably going to be like, don't share that. I learned something about myself really early on working with Jose Villa. Him and I were doing his workshops in Mexico year after year. For about 10 years, we did that together, amongst a lot of other, really talented people for sure. And I remember one time he came to me, probably like the 6th year we were doing them together, and he goes, Mar, you're kind of defensive sometimes. And I was like, no, I'm not.
No, it's not about me. No.
Like, girl. And I go, holy shit. Yeah. You know what? I think you're right. And it checked me. And I thought, he loves me enough to show me a mirror of myself. And I went, you're totally right. I go, well, I have a lot to protect. He's like, you're coming off defensive. Don't do that. And I said, you know what? You're right. Again, walked my, butt with my little tail between my legs to my therapist and went, how do I get over this defensive thing? How do I like navigate that? And she said, slow down your responses, because you're reacting. Slow down with what you want to say and really think it through for a second. Don't like just jump. You're kind of jumping. And if you take a step back and you process for a minute, you're going to have a response versus a reaction. And instead of being defensive, you're going to say, tell me more. Tell me more. Explain that to me. So we all have our stuff. Anyone walking around thinking that they don't have some stuff going on, they probably
do
have more problems than they think. So We all have stuff, and we're all flawed humans, and we all make mistakes, and we all say crazy, stupid things sometimes, but it's how you respond when someone brings it to your attention.
I love
Uh,
it. Response versus reaction. And because we all get defensive because we know how much time and effort we put in our work, right? And we see it from our perspective. But I love
Yeah,
you actually giving the chance because like you said, if your clients are emailing you, they're giving you the chance and like
yeah,
to explain, to like find a solution basically here. And
absolutely.
it could be the mirror. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you have any questions right now, we kind of running out of time.
As
But
usual with me and my big mouth.
no, I mean, all of your advices, all of the examples that you shared, this is priceless. And I'm just making a note for myself, and I'm gonna rewatch this session.
yeah, and you've been on this journey, and you arrived at the point when you share the experience. And thank you again for your honesty and like well-shaped and well-structured experience and the thoughts, as well as, I mean, to me, it's also you discover yourself through those situations, and our business is like part of our personality. So the better we understand ourselves, the better we handle all
Yeah.
things with others.
Well, and the people that really
Also,
care about you and care about your business are going to show you a mirror of yourself once in a while. And sometimes it's good stuff. Sometimes it's really, positive things or acknowledging things. But, when you get those constructive criticisms, it's okay to think about that for a second. Or maybe, maybe you like the way you're doing things and maybe you don't want to change, and that's okay too. So
that's also fair take
whatever works for you.
on that.
We are all responsible for ourselves and our own emotions and our own reactions and responses. We're not responsible for anybody else's. Only person we can control is ourselves. So let's do that. Let's have some control over how we deal with things, because the world would be a better place if everyone just had a response with kindness and taking that high road, period.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mar, I will just take a moment to read not the questions, but all the kind words everyone is
Yeah, thank you
saying.
so much for sharing all experience. It was really great. This discussion was so appropriate just in our everyday lives. Great insight and reflective advice. Mar is bringing self-awareness into how we do business, which makes perfect sense then as people working with people.
Love you, Mar. That's from Tanya.
Oh, I heard.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
All right.
awesome advice. Thank you for sharing your experience and insight. So people are just
So I think that we will have session number 3 sometime soon.
Yeah.
After this season, we will come up with an even more interesting topic. All right, Mar, again, thank you again for joining us and sharing the wisdom, being honest, well-structured, and motivating. Because every topic you touch, it's not just you narrow down into just the topic, you like broaden the vision, and you help us to become a better, not professionals, better people with a self-awareness. Thank you again, and thanks everyone for joining,
Thank
who
you.
made it live or who will watch the recording, our Asian, Australian, New Zealand friends.
Ooh.
And yeah, with that, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your night, and amazing season. Mar, I know that you will be busy tomorrow, so have fun.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for having me again. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love you. We love you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
How do I do this? Okay,
We
leave.
will
end it.
stop it in a second.